have you read any French novels or any form of French literature written in Chinese, English, original French, or other languages? No? Oh, have you read anything, Japanese translation of French novels? No? And yeah, okay, I got a very basic idea about where we are at right now. And so I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself, learning French and French literature. My passion for French language and literature started with reading the Chinese translation of Balzac. You know Balzac? Translated by the famous Chinese translator called Fu Lei, and back in 40 years ago. And I have an idea that I would like to read the Balzac in French and to see how Fu Lei had translated the French classics into Chinese. And I'd like to make a comparison as well. But right now I can take it. And that's my initiation of learning French, self-teaching French language and literature. And French is a very fascinating language, as you know. That you may have heard that French is the most romantic language in the world. And especially, you heard the song La Vie en Rose. La Vie. And this song is very hard to pronounce. Even I can't make it sound like a Frenchman. This 我们叫做小舌音。La mean the, V mean life. Now this is the song we just heard. And mean in. Rose, the same as English as rose. This is a famous hit sung by Eddie Piaf. In the 1949 or 1940s. Eddie Piaf is a famous, very famous French singer. And La Vie en Rose. Rose. So Annie Ernaux won the Nobel Prize in Literature in this year, and she came from a working class family, you know, working class. And we're going to talk about two words here, proletariat and bourgeoisie. And do you know what does it mean in Chinese? Proletariat and bourgeoisie. And these are English words, but they come from French. This is called 无产. We also叫做这个叫做普罗阶级，这个叫做资产，或者叫有产。And the class, you know the class. What does it mean in Chinese? Class. There are many meaning in class. And from the sociological point of view, it can be called from a political point of view, it can be called, this is sociology, this is political class. And the working class belong to the belong to this proletariat. So we also have what can we call 小资产阶级 le petit. The French call le petit. Petit means little. The petit bourgeoisie, 小资产阶级. So, if you know the history of France, and you can see that the class distinction is very clear in a society like France. And you can see very clearly the working class, the proletariats, the bourgeoisie, the petit bourgeoisie, the ruling class, the bureaucratic 贵族. And if you're interested in French history, you have to go back to read books like A Very Short History, A Very Short Introduction to French History, or something like that. You can find the book here in the library. Very short introduction to French history, very short introduction to French literature, and to get yourself understanding more about the French literature, French history. But we don't talk about this in detail in this lecture, because we're gonna talk about Annie Ernaux. So she's a Nobel laureate in literature. This is the book that we're going to talk about. This is the book cover that we're going to talk about today. Le journée means the years. Le année means years. So this is the book cover. Is sold for 130 kwai in RMB for very slim volume of less than 140 pages. This book is very expensive. And we got a Chinese translation here, and I also have Ms. Zhang posted our English translation to our readers group. So if you are interested in reading the English translation of this book, you can ask Ms. Zhang for help. And perhaps she can repost it, the English translation of this book to our readers group, so that you can download and read the English version. And this is Annie in her 20s. She was born in 1940, so in the 60s she was about 20-something, about 20-something young girl. So from the picture you can see she's kind of pretty, right? A pretty girl, a pretty young girl in her 20s. So this is Annie Ernaux in her 20s. And yeah, so this is Annie Ernaux. And she came from a working class, and gradually she went to school and went to college. And she was the first person in his family to go to college. And she is also the first person to be in a class of bourgeoisie in her family. And later she became a teacher. She got passed all the exams in France, and then get her teacher's certificates. So she is entitled to teach at school. At the very beginning, from a primary school teacher to become a university teacher. And she retired probably 20 years ago as a professor of literature at a correspondence college in France. And she also writing while she was teaching. So she had become quite famous in the 1970s and published a lot of books. Right now, she had published more than 20 books in France, and all of them have made her a very famous writer in France. And the other writer that can be parallel with her is a writer called Pierre Michon. Pierre Pierre Misson is another famous writer, shared the same reputation as Annie as a first-class writer in France. And these two writers also serve at the very top 5 or top 10 in gambling, the gambling list. So in a Western country, especially in Europe, North America, people take the Nobel Prize as a gamble. They will bet which author will win the Nobel Prize. And Pierre Misson and Annie Ernaux have been on the top 10 list of this gambling list. And eventually Annie won the Nobel Prize. And these authors cannot be overlooked because their style is very similar. These two of the novels written by Pierre Misson. So we can pass around, everyone can read the book. Yeah, Pierre Misson, this author. You can pass the books around. So this is two novels written by Pierre Misson. And this one is called The 11, Le 11. 11 means 11. And this is called the minuscule life. La vie minuscule. Minuscule in English means minuscule. The same meaning. And so this is Annie in her 20s. And this is Annie in her 30s. And Annie was born and raised in the 1960s. Do you know what happened in the 1960s and 70s in Europe? Can you guess? The students' movement. In 1968, there was a student movement in France. Or you can watch some French movie that had illustrated this kind of incident by a movie starring Annie Hathaway or Eva, something like this kind of movie. So it's a student movement that the student will go to the streets to demand for further rights, protect themselves and their studies. And they have conflicts with the police, and some of them dies on the streets. And the student movements after that came the sexual liberation, sexual liberation in the late 60s and to the early 70s. The sexual liberation means it's another feminist movement. Feminist. 女权主义运动。Or feminism. And this is a masterpiece of the feminist movement. We can pass around these two books. The Deuxième means the second sex. 第二性，大家听说过这本书吗？就是的作者叫做西蒙娜·德波娃，西蒙娜·德波娃，第二性。
绿色的头发是红的，是吧？
还是法医？
是不是红的？
这是这个是我们主管有这本书，
你感觉是不是红
给接着看。这个是
但是那个年轻的好像是黑的。
到20世纪70年代。So the second sex is a very famous book, calling for the liberation and freedom of women and their rights. Give women the rights for general suffrage. Give them the right for abortion. Right now in the U.S. there was an anti-abortion movement, right? And Annie has suffered from illegal abortion in the 1960s when she was in the 20s. And she wrote a book about that which is called L'événement or Happening. We're going to talk about that later. That book later. So who would like to read this part? So Annie would like to read it? Read it aloud, and then we're going to talk about it. Okay, you read it aloud. The whole passage. This is the prize motivation from the Nobel Prize Committee for Literature.
Okay.
Prize motivation.
Prize motivation for the college and clinical actually, which is uncovers the root. Instructions and plenty research of
这个是诺贝尔文学奖委员会给他颁发的，这个我们叫做授奖词，这就是第一句是他这面是他的评价。In her writing, Annie Ernaux consistently and from different angles.
Acuity 什么意思
啊 ，acute 是很尖锐、很尖。
哦，那个前面的那个词acute， 哎呀。
clinical 就是那种临床的，就
很
非常精确的、精锐的这种。
In her writing.
I know what. I
Experiment 是什么意思啊
considerate
Experiment.
and from different angles. It examines a life marked by strong
disparities
regarding
gender,
languages, and class. Her path to authorship was long and
arduous. 是很艰难的。
Among her novels are A Man's Praise, A Woman's Story, and Yes, and Anna's work is commonality and written in plain languages. They are clear, and when she with great courage and clinical
Acuity
reveals the agony of the experience of crowds, describing shame,
humiliation,
jealousy or inability to see who you are. She has achieved something admirable and enduring.
So this remark was from the Nobel Prize Committee in Literature, Literary Committee, and you can see that, but her language is not difficult. So plain language. What is plain? Plain means 很平易的语言. And her French writing is not very difficult. I guess an intermediate student of French can understand what our French novels.
哎，他这本书是不是in French or English？
不过他是用很平易的法文写的。
他是法文写的不讲，
不难。
他不是英文写的不讲。
他是法国作家，他用法文写的。
但法国人很多都会英语的嘛，对吧？
不，但是her French is very plain in plain language, very easy to read, but not difficult.
就像是口头语那种现在网上面那种流行语一样的那种啊。
Patrick Modiano is also very easy to read, not difficult. It's not a difficult author. Maybe the other French author is difficult, but not. Proust is difficult. Marcel Proust, 普鲁斯特是很难读的，他一句话100-200个单词。
普鲁斯特 what's meaning？
这个普鲁斯特就是追忆似水年华嘛。
这个。
À la recherche du temps perdu。
不，前面那个 P-R-O-U-S 什么意思啊？就那个。
这是他的名字啊，普鲁斯特是作者的名字啊。
作者的名字写在上面。
是追忆似水年华，就是这作者写的。
他不是书名啊。
是书名，这下面这行追忆似水年华。我们下面会讲到这本书。Proust has exerted a great deal of influence on Annie Ernaux, but she changed the way Proust writes. cruise usually writes a sentence in 100 to 200 French words without a full stop. But Annie Ernaux had written it in a very plain and easy style. So you can see that her book is about gender. Gender 是什么？就是性别 especially about women. And language, 语言 and class, 阶层、阶级 class. Here. So the class is a very key word here about her writing. Class differentiation, class distinction, class classification, class experiences. So all her books have been written about how the working class or the bourgeoisie or how do they interact or how they change from one class. And in fact, she was ascended from the working class to the bourgeoisie class. So she had a heartfelt feeling about this class distinction, class differentiation. Class.
Sir, may I have a question?
Yeah, okay.
Just two questions. So I'm so curious. And in this class, I want to know about the book and when you translate it into Chinese.
This book has already been translated into Chinese, so this is the Chinese version of this book. So you can check out any online bookstore so that you can buy it. And this is a Chinese translation of the book.
So you translated it in Chinese?
It's already been translated in Chinese and published by 人民文学出版社 very famous.
他就翻译成中文就那么一点点啊。
对啊。
这一点点获得诺贝尔奖真奇怪啊！
不奇怪啊，什么？
不过我觉得他这个诺贝尔奖也是带水分的，那也是。
你念一下这个。
我就没建议了。
谁念一下这个？
今天讲。Context. Annie Ernaux, the newly minted French winner of the prize, is a gambling-minded reader would suggest likely to register as the second kind of her way to becoming a permanent writer. To those who read for the rivalry knows the game of it. Certainly, she is more the second kind than other recent French laureates. More easily appreciated as an obligation than a pleasure. The honorable incredible, a man of impeccable wisdom, whose work can not only sound like the narration to a
UNESCO, you know, when UNESCO 是联合国教科文组织叫 UNESCO。
这是在它的大学这么多documentary on the very French technique.
Modiano.
Whose admirable novels of the occupation are both introspective and formally conventional. 不太屌人，我是自学的。
没关系，你可以学。这个 occupation 是什么？大家知道吗？是 occupation means the German occupation of France during the Second World War. German, in fact, occupied France in the Second World War. And Hitler went to Paris to patrol the German army, but she never made it to go upstairs to the Eiffel Tower. I don't know why. Maybe a reason. He just wanted to climb, and something went wrong with the tower, and that he couldn't go upstairs and to see Paris view from that tower. And Hitler, you know, Hitler is an artist. He's a student of arts. So he had a great passion for the artist and artistic work. Cultural relic in Paris. So he went into Paris to show himself that just like a country boy went to a big city and experienced the pressure, in fact, of being an invader, and both as an invader and both as an arts student. So it's a very strange experience for Hitler. So this is Plagio. This book is written by Plagio, and this is Modiano, the Prix Nobel de Literature 2014. Modiano won the Nobel Prize.
I can read because the French languages I can read. I don't understand what's
You pass it around so everyone can read. So this is Plagio's Plagio's classics.
In this morning, I want to borrow this book, this novel from the library, but it gone. This book.
You can buy it from the
connection.
From the online bookstore.
Okay.
那个是有名版吗？
那本书网上书店都有，京东啊什么当当都有卖啊。
我今天早上拿那里讲借人家借走了。
我有中文版的，没有英文版。
So
我们的英文版就在我们的读者群里面有啊，大家可以下载电子版来看。So this is Plagio and Patrick Modiano. We also suggested the reader here to read the book called 青春咖啡馆 Dans le café de la jeunesse du 青春咖啡馆，这个也是一个 It's a very tragic story.
so any Chinese
Yeah.
name?
Yeah, you can find it here in the library.
In the library?
青春咖啡馆. And we go to the next part. And this genre of Annie Ernaux's writings is considered to be memoir. 自传或者我们叫做回忆录，也叫做 autofiction. Autofiction, there's two meanings in this word autofiction. That is autographical fiction, or 就是那种自传性的小说。Another meaning is called fiction about automobiles， 就是关于汽车的小说，也可以叫做 autofiction。这是有两个意思在里面。我念吧，我们有些我们念太久。In the years since she has become famous for pushing the boundary of memoir, more memorably or controversially, in an account of her own abortion, published in English as Happening. Happening is the book that had been adapted into a film and won a prize in 2016 in Venice Film Festival. 就是那本电影叫做《进行时》，就是一本这本电影会讲 Happening， 就英文名叫 Happening， 法文名叫 Le Événement， 事件是讲他自己堕胎的这种经历，亲身经历写出来的那种小说，法文叫做 Le Événement。然后英文叫 Happening。Happening. In the midst of the madness of motives and cruelty of fate, but her style is, in many ways, disengaged, but she writes of herself in a flat, observational, reportorial way that relentlessly inventories the surface of things, and even in the midst of the madness of motives and the cruel of fates. So this book has been adapted into a film, award-winning film in 2016 in Venice Film Festival. So the commitment to restoring the surface of light and the surface exactly that of each mixed period and stained underwear extend to a remarkable study of the generation of French life since the Second World War, titled In an Echo of Virginia Woolf, The Years. This is a book, The Years. 我们这本书英文名叫 The Years。我们的电子版大家可以在图书馆的读者群里面会有。张静，你可以把这本书再发一遍。
对对对，到时候再发给大家。
A memoir in which a loving, attentive, sardonic detail of the advertisement and false hopes and sheer thinness of time passing is offered. She reflects at one point on the memories and speech pattern of a generation of older people who had passed through poverty and German occupation, and make this lesson into a set of words and repeated incantation. So this is a passage from The Years. So you can skip that. And yet Ernaux had also worked out of the clearly articulated politics. So we're going to talk about politics, sociology, and literature. So politics and literature. And Ernaux is considered to be a leftist. You know the leftist? In France, all the media have been divided into three directions. The leftist, the rightist, the middle, the medium. 就是法国的媒体，它是有分成三派的，左翼、右翼和中间派。所以 when you see reports, the same incident in different journals of this different direction, you can see different reporting. A leftist newspaper may report it in one way, the rightist report it in another way. The medium media report it in the medium way. So it's very interesting to make a comparison of reading the same reports in different French newspapers. And I'm going to show everyone here about the famous leftist newspaper. That is what we call Le Monde. 世界报，大家知道法国世界报啊，这个就是法国世界报。Le Monde 是一个很有名的左翼的报纸。这个报纸的读者在法国基本上都是比较高层的那些读者，像大学教师啊、高级管理人员啊，或者是这些比较有文化，他的法文是比较词汇量很丰富。你词汇量很少的人，你看这报纸是很难可以大家。
那法国的这个左翼跟我们就是我们亚洲的左翼右翼是一样的吗？还是
？There are differences. The leftist differences. The leftists in France, they emphasize that, but the leftists in France are not Marxists or Leninists. They are based on the value from the very, the left-wing people. And the rightists promote, like what Donald Trump has said, get the immigrant out of the country and make France or America great again. This is the very basic to their own values. So the leftists and rightists are different in France. So, but you can see that Annie Ernaux is a far leftist task less by Marxist dogma than by a kind of partial humanistic protest. The left wing in France is based on a humanistic of viewpoints. They are not Marxists. And Hugo, Victor Hugo is the literary hero of Alfred Nobel. That means Alfred Nobel 诺贝尔奖他的这个人，诺贝尔这个人非常崇拜雨果，大家知道雨果吧？ And can you cite some of the major works written by Victor Hugo? 雨果写过。